Sarvopanishado gavaha dogdha gopala nandanaha partho vatsa sudhir bhokta dugdham geetamritam mahat swayatatmyam prakritascha tirodihi sharanagatihi bhaktabheda prabuddhasya sraishtyam saptama uchyate jaramarana mokshaya mamashritya yatantiye te brahma tatvidukritsnam adhyatmam karma chakhilam Sadi bhutadi devam mam sadi yagyam chaye viduhu prayana kale pichamam te vidur yukta chetasaha. In response to Arjuna's 8th and 9th question, Arjuna's question specifically focused on how to master one's mind, gain mastery over the mind, and stay firmly and steadily focused on the path to attain Bhagavan. Krishna takes up the topic of introducing himself. Swayathatmyam. Krishna talks about his own nature, the nature of Paramatma. Prakritascha tirodihi. He also talks about how Prakriti, Bhagavan's Maya, conceals his true nature. The delusory power of Maya conceals his true nature. And then he also gives the solution as to how to overcome this delusory power of Maya. Sharanagatihi, by taking refuge in him. Bhakta bhedaha prabuddhasya sraishtam. Krishna then also introduces the 4 kinds of bhaktas, contrasting those who have accumulated papa karma with those who have accumulated punya karma. Krishna introduces the 4 kinds of bhaktas and also names Jnani as the supreme bhakta. Krishna in the process categorizes Sukritinaha, those who have accumulated punya and therefore because of their punya they approach Bhagavan as the means to attain the goal. Chaturvidam bhajante mam janas sukritinarjuna arto jignasurattharthi jnani cha bharatarshabha. Krishna, concluding the 7th chapter, also talks about what are the principles that are to be known by his bhaktas. The concluding part of 7th chapter, Krishna talks about certain key principles. What are to be known, what are to be realized, what is to be attained, what is to be renounced by the bhaktas. And therefore, he introduces certain technical terms towards the end of 7th chapter. In his own characteristic style, Krishna summarizes what are to be known, what are to be attained, and what are to be renounced by his bhaktas. So that brings us to Arjuna's 10th question. In response to Krishna's exposition on his nature and classification of bhaktas, what are to be attained and what are to be renounced by them, Arjuna now has A very important question. Arjuna therefore begins, the 8th chapter begins with Arjuna's 10th question. Kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama. Krishna introduced certain key concepts and did not detail them towards the end of 7th chapter. Adibhutam cha kim proktam, adiyajnam kimuchyate, adidevam kimuchyate, adiyajnah katam kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayanakalesi katam nyeyosi niyatatmabihi. Now, there are 6 key principles that Krishna introduced towards the end of 7th chapter. Tad Brahman, Adhyatmam, Akhila Karma, Adidevam, Adiyajnam, Adibhutam. And he also, towards the end, also said, Prayanakale, what one should, how one should realize him and know him. Now, what is the context of Arjuna's 10th question? Arjuna's 10th question is in response to the last 2 shlokas of 7th chapter, where Krishna, concluding the 7th chapter, he declares, Hey Arjuna, Jaramarana mokshaya mamashritya yatantiye. Jaramarana mokshaya. In order to gain freedom from old age and death, which essentially is freedom from the samsara. There is no way to escape old age and death as long as one is in samsara. Freedom from old age, freedom from death is only possible through freedom from samsara. So therefore, in order to gain freedom from samsara, Jaramarana mokshaya mamashritya yatantiye. The bhakta takes Bhagavan's shelter, Krishna's shelter. And the one who takes his shelter and strives for this freedom from samsara, Krishna says, they should know te brahma tat vidukritnam adhyatmam karma cha akhilam. That bhakta should know tad brahma adhyatma, adhyatkritsnam adhyatmam, akhilam karma. Then he continues, he says, Sadi bhutadi devam mam, sadi yajnam cha ye viduhu, prayanakale pichamam, te vidu yukta chetasaha. Now, these 2 concluding shlokas refer to the various categories of bhaktas. Krishna is talking about, towards the end of 7th chapter, what should be attained, what should be renounced by his bhaktas. So let's look at the categories of bhaktas that Krishna talked about. Sukritinaha, those who have accumulated punya karma, and it is because of punya karma they get on to the right path. They recognize, they are aware of Bhagavan, and they are on the right path, taking the right direction towards him. And he talked about 4: Artaha, Artarthi, Jignasu, Jnani. Now these 4, Artha is one who has lost, who has lost his possessions or positions, and therefore he seeks either position or possession by approaching Bhagavan. He is Artha. Artharthi is one who is seeking to gain something new, a new position or a new possession. He is Artharthi. Jignasu is one who seeks knowledge and who seeks Atma Anubhava. experience of one's own true nature. Jnani, the supreme Bhakta, he seeks Bhagavan and Bhagavan only. Now, these four categories of Bhaktas can be regrouped as three categories. We have seen the three tattvas, tattva traya, which Krishna introduced in the 7th chapter. Achit tattva, chit tattva, ishvara tattva. Achit tattva, the insentient principle of matter, prakriti. Chit tattva, the sentient individual souls. Ishvara tattva, Bhagavan, Paramatma. Now, those who seek experience of pleasure in association with Achit, are Artha and Artharthi. Both Artha and Artharthi are actually seeking material pleasures. And therefore, both of them can be grouped into one category, Aishwaryarthi. Those who are seeking Aishwarya. So Aishwaryarthi is one who is seeking material pleasure, who is seeking pleasure born out of association with Achit Tattva, association with Prakriti. The second category of Bhakta is one who is seeking Atmanubhava, experience of Chit, experience of one's own true nature. And this category is called Kaivalyarthi. Kevala Atmanubhava is Kaivalyarthi. One who is seeking Kevala Atmanubhava. The third category is one who is seeking experience of Bhagavan, Bhagavat Tattva, Bhagavat Sharanarthi. So therefore, Krishna, in a sense, is talking about three categories of Bhaktas. Aishwaryarthi, Kaivalyarthi, Bhagavat Sharanarthi. Now, for each three of them, he concluded by talking about what they should know, what they should attain, and what they should renounce. Jaramarana mokshaya mamashritya yatantiye te brahma tatvidu kritsnam adhyatmam karma cha akhilam. Here, Krishna is talking about the goal and the mean and what needs to be attained by a Kaivalya. Te viduhu tad brahma. Tad brahma is the principle, that is the goal of a Kaivalyarthi, what is to be attained. And what he should also know, Akhilam, he should also know Kritsnam Adhyatmam. And also the Kaivalyarthi should know Karma cha Akhilam, Akhila Karma. Now, each of these terms Krishna did not explain. So all of us would be wondering what they stand for, just like Arjuna, which is exactly what Arjuna's 10th question is. Krishna concluded the 7th chapter by just referring to these principles. A Kaivalyarthi should know the principles of Brahmam, Adhyatmam, Karma. And an Aishwaryarthi, Sadi Bhutadi Devam Mam, Sadi Yajnam Cha Ye Viduhu. Aishwaryarthi should know the principles of Adi Bhuta, Adi Daivam, and Prayanakale Vichamam Ye Vidu Yukta Chetasaha. All three of them, Kaivalyarthi, Aishwaryarthi, and Bhagavat Sharanarthi, all three of them should know the principle of Adi Yajna, and they also should know what should be remembered at the time of the last moments, at the time of exit from the body. This is how Krishna concluded 7th chapter. Immediately, on our behalf, Arjuna asks the question, hey Krishna, now I want to know those terms. All of a sudden, you bring up very complicated terms, hey Krishna, and some of these terms have different meanings in different contexts. Each of these terms, Brahmam, Adidaivam, Adibhutam, karma, adiyajnam. All these, depending on the context, can be understood differently. So therefore, Arjuna wants to know what exactly these mean. And that happens to be his 10th question. His 10th question to Krishna is, hey Krishna, kim tat brahmam, kim adhyatmam, kim karma purushottama. Hey Purushottama, kim tat brahmam. What is that brahmam that you referred to? Kim tat brahmam. Kim adhyatmam. What is adhyatma? Kim karma. What is karma? Because karma that Krishna used earlier seemed to be different from the term karma he used towards the end of 7th chapter. So there are three, straight away Arjuna asked these three questions. What is that term Brahmam that you referred to? What is adhyatmam? What is karma? Adibhutam cha kim proktam. What is that you are referring to? What is meant by adibhutam that you are referring to? Adibhutam cha kim proktam, adi daivam kimuchyate. What is meant to be adi daivam? What is adibhutam? What is adi daivam? Adi yajna katam kotra dehesmin madhusudana. Adi yajna katam kotra kaha atra asmin dehe madhusudana. Kaha adi yajnam. Kaha adi yajnam atra, as referred to the Shastras, asmin, as taught by you, hey Krishna, as referred to by the Shastras and as taught by you, kaha adiyajna. What is that adiyajna? Katham. How it is adiyajna? Kaha adiyajna. Katham adiyajna. He wants to know in detail what is adiyajna. Now, we need to understand the three classifications of bhaktas a little bit more in detail in order to appreciate these principles that Krishna referred to and Arjuna wants explanation for. When we look at Krishna's categorization, the three categories of bhaktas, Aishwaryarthi, Kaivalyarthi, Bhagavad Sharanarthi. How are they different? What is common to all three and what is different to all three? First, we need to understand this. What is common to all three? The one thing which is common to all three is all three are bhaktas. That is common. All three perform bhakti. Now, bhakti, therefore, is like a fuel. Any route that is taken, any path that is taken, bhakti is needed. It is like the fuel that re-energizes and ensures that the seeker, the sadhaka, is on the path to attain the goal. Bhakti is common to all the three. Bhakti is the fuel on this path that will ensure that one sustains and one stays on course to reach the goal. So what is common across the three is bhakti. That is the reason why all three are different kinds of bhaktas. What is different? So all three definitely have different goals. The goals seem to be different for the three categories of bhaktas. So when we talk of goal means prapya. So prapya, goal, is different in each. The prapya of an Aishwaryarthi is different to the prapya of a Kaivalyarthi and different to a prapya of a Bhagavad Sharanarthi. What is the prapya, the goal of Aishwaryarthi? The prapya is wealth, Aishwaryam. For an Aishwaryarthi, the goal is Aishwaryam. Positions and possessions. All kinds of material wealth is the prapya, the goal. When it comes to Kaivalyarthi, the prapyam, the goal, is Atmanubhava, Kevala Atmanubhava, experiencing one's own self, one's own true nature. What is the prapya of Bhagavad Sharanarthi? Bhagavan is prapya of Bhagavad Sharanarthi. He is the goal. Experiencing him serving him is the ultimate goal for a Bhagavad Charana. So the prapyas of the three categories of bhaktas are very different. Now let's look at the prapaka. Prapaka is the means. Prapaka is the means. Prapya is the goal. Are the means the same for all the three? Now we need, when we say the means, prapaka, a prapaka is twofold in nature. Need a little bit of an attention here. Prapaka is twofold in nature. What is the twofold nature of prapaka? Phala, prapaka is sadhana, the means. What is the twofold nature of any sadhana, any means? Phala karana sadhana, phala prada sadhana. The twofold nature. Karana means instrument. For any means, there is the instrument, the tool used, the path which affects the means is phala karana sadhana. Phala prada sadhana is the cause that affects the result. So therefore, the means, to take a simple analogy, when we say the means to a goal, goal is the destination. What is the means to a goal? When we are traveling towards a destination, what is the means? It is not just the car. The car is an instrument. Is the car the means? Yes, the car is the means, but it is not the only means. The car needs fuel. Is the fuel and the car the only means? No. A driver is needed. So in addition to the car and the fuel, a driver is also needed so that the driver can drive the car. Now, if we say the means to the destination comprises of the car, the fuel, and the driver, are we complete in definition of the means? No. The driver needs a guide. You can have the car can have fuel, and there can be a driver, but the driver may drive in the wrong direction. Now, if the car with the fuel needs to go towards the right direction, apart from the driver also needs a guide. So, which means what we say as the sadhana towards prapya to the goal, the sadhana is multifold in nature. The sadhana is multifold in nature. That is why the prapaka, the sadhana, when we look at it, the multifold, and you can look at primarily two categories of sadhana, the twofold nature. One is phala karana sadhana, the instrument which affects the action itself. That is phala karana. Then phala prada sadhana, the cause that affects the result. Now, in the case of all the three kinds of bhaktas, within the sadhana, one thing is common. Phala prada sadhana is common. Krishna is the phala prada sadhana. For all the three, because be it an Aishwaryarthi, or a Kaivalyarthi, or a Bhagavad Charanarthi, all the three are bhaktas who have realized that Krishna alone bestows the rewards. That is why they approach him. An Aishwaryarthi, one who seeks wealth, knows Krishna alone can give him the wealth. Therefore, phala prada sadhana, the means, the one who delivers, the bestows the results is Krishna, nobody else. That awareness is clearly there. That is the reason why one approaches Krishna. All of us, when we approach him with our long list, asking, hey Krishna, give me this, give me that, give me position, give me power, give me name, give me fame, give me wealth, give me money, give me property, we all have realized that he alone can give us. Phala prada sadhana is Krishna. Nobody. So that is why even Aishwaryarthi is a bhakta, because he is worshipping Krishna, knowing that Krishna alone can bestow even material rewards. Phala prada sadhana is Krishna. Phala karana sadhana for an Aishwaryarthi is karma yoga. with bhakti. Phala, therefore, he performs karma yoga. He performs karma yoga with bhakti, supported by bhakti, knowing fully well that the material rewards are bestowed by Krishna alone. In the case of Kaivalyarthi, the Jignasu, Phala Prada Sadhana is Krishna. Even the Jignasu understands, even Jnana, knowledge can be bestowed only by Krishna. And therefore, even for a Jignasu, for a Kaivalyarthi, Phala Prada Sadhana is Krishna, Phala Karana Sadhana is Jnana Yoga. Therefore, a Kaivalyarthi, in order to reach the goal, the prapya of Atmanubhava, performs Jnana Yoga, and knowing fully well the end result, the reward of Atmanubhava is also given by Krishna only. In the case of Bhagavad Sharanarthi, he is very clear. Phala Prada Sadhana is Krishna. And Phala Karana Sadhana is Bhakti Yoga. The Bhagavad Sharanarthi performs Bhakti Yoga with the goal of attaining Bhagavan. To him, to Bhagavad Sharanarthi, the means is Krishna, the goal is Krishna. In all the three, for all the three, one thing is very clear. Krishna is Phala Prada Sadhana. He is the one who bestows. So therefore, all three kinds of bhaktas have realized that any reward, whether it is material or spiritual, any kind of reward is only bestowed by Krishna. And therefore, they submit only to him, seeking either material or spiritual rewards. The goals are different. The means is different when it comes to the instrument, the path. They may take different paths, but all these paths are based on the foundation of the awareness is that ultimately all kinds of rewards are bestowed by Bhagavan only. Now, it is in this context that Krishna introduces the 6 terms of Brahman, Adhyatmam, Karma, Adibhuta, Adidaiva, Adiyajna. And these are the 6 terms that Arjuna is seeking clarification. Arjuna's 10th question, therefore, is, hey Krishna, explain to me in the context of discussion of the various bhaktas what they need to attain and what they need to renounce. Please to explain what is Tad Brahmam. What is that Brahmam? That is the first term that Arjuna is seeking clarification. Krishna referred to a Kaivalyarthi and said a Kaivalyarthi needs to know what is that Brahmam, the goal to be attained, that imperishable principle which is there, which exists in every entity. So Krishna's question answer, therefore, Krishna answers Arjuna's question. Krishna says, Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Krishna answers, what is that Tat Brahmam? Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Brahmam, Aksharam Paramam. Paramam Aksharam. Paramam, that which is supreme, that which is different. Aksharam, that which is imperishable. The imperishable principle in every living being is Brahman. For a Kaivalyarthi, this is the goal. So therefore, what is the goal? The goal is that imperishable principle, which is nothing but the Muktatma Swarupa, the nature of one's own Atman, which is distinct and different from Prakriti. That is why it is Paramam Akshara. Paramam, superior and different. When it comes, it is superior to Prakriti and it is different from, distinct and different from Prakriti. Akshara, imperishable, undecaying, never changing, which remains constant all the time. That is the Muktatma Swarupa, the true nature of the Atman in the state of liberation. So therefore, the goal of a Kaivalyarthi, a goal of a Jignasu, is to experience one's own true nature. And therefore, Krishna explains the term Tat Brahmam, Aksharam Paramam Brahmam, Swabhavo Adhyatma Uchyate. The second question of Arjuna is, what is Adhyatma? Now, for a Kaivalyarthi, for a Jignasu, the goal to attain is experiencing his own true nature. Now, what is the obstacle that prevents one from experiencing one's true nature? What is that obstacle? The obstacle is Prakriti. Prakriti is what prevents, association with Prakriti is what prevents one from realizing one's own true nature. As long as the Atman stays identified with its body, identifies itself with Achit Tattva, with Prakriti, it is not possible for the Atman to experience its own nature. So what is the obstacle? Prakriti is the obstacle. Now, what is Adhyatma? Krishna says, Adhyatma Swabhava Uchyate, he says. Adhyatma is nothing but, hey Arjuna, Swabhava. Swabhava of the Atman. What is Swabhava? Swabhava means character, innate character. What is the innate character of an embodied Atman? The innate character of an embodied Atman is Prakriti, because the Atman is Anad, from time immemorial, is associated with Prakriti. And how it is associated with Prakriti? It has something called a Sharira. The Atman, from time immemorial, is associated with the Sharira. What kind of a Sharira? Sukshma Sharira. The Atman is always associated. As long as the Atman is in the cycle of samsara, it is always associated with a subtle body, which is called Sukshma Sharira. All of us have two kinds of Sharira. Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira. Sthula Sharira is gross body, gross physical body. Sukshma Sharira, subtle body. Both of them are made of Prakriti. Both of them are made of three gunas. Sthula Sharira keeps changing all the time. From one Janma to the other, Sthula Sharira keeps changing. Sthula means gross physical body, what we can see. Sukshma Sharira is subtle, which is again, the Sukshma Sharira is what is carrying the manas, the indriyas, and it is what is carrying our karmic baggage. The karma vasanas and the karma phala is being carried by the Sukshma Sharira. Sthula Sharira is the gross body. Vasamsi jirnani yata vihaya navani girnati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehe. Just like how we shed old garments, we shed also the body when the utility of the body comes to an end. From one janma to the other janma, Sthula Sharira keeps changing. Samsara is nothing but a cycle of karma vasanas. The vasanas drive the desires. The desires drive our agitations in the mind. The agitations drive actions. The actions result in accumulation of vasanas. This is the cycle of vasanas, karma vasanas. And samsara is this vicious cycle. The Sukshma Sharira, which consists of the karma vasanas, preconceives every action. The Sthula Sharira performs the action. When the Sthula Sharira, the gross body, performs the action results in karma phala. The karma phala is the seed which goes and accumulates once again in the Sukshma Sharira, which once again preconceives the action, which is carried out by the Sthula Sharira, which results in karma phala, which again is the seed. This is again the same karma vasana cycle. Now, here Swabhava, therefore, is this Prakriti, which is the Sukshma Sharira. which from time immemorial is associated. This Sukshma Sharira becomes the characteristic of the Atman, of the embodied Atman. Because why? All the Karma Vasanas are faithfully stored in the Sukshma Sharira. And it is these Karma Vasanas which determine the nature of every birth. It is this. Therefore, Krishna says, this is what is the obstacle that prevents one from realizing one's own true nature, from experiencing. In order to get liberated and experience the Muktatma Swarupa, the obstacle is this Prakriti, which is the Sukshma Sharira. As long as the Jivatma is caught in the cycle of Samsara, it is perennially associated. It's stuck to the Sukshma Sharira, which is made up of the three gunas, which is made up of Prakriti. Swabhavaha Adhyatma Uchyate. Adhyatma, therefore, is Swabhava. Adhyatma Swabhava Uchyate. Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Swabhavo Adhyatma Uchyate. Bhuta Bhava Bhavakaraha Visargaha Karma Samnitaha. Here, karma, akhilam karma, is what Krishna referred to as that which needs to be known by the Kaivalyarthi. And Arjuna wanted to know what is this karma to be known in its entirety. Here Krishna defines the term karma. Bhuta bhava, bhuta bhavodbhavakaraha, visargaha. His karma is visarga, he says. Visarga is producing. Visarga is creating. Every act of production, every act of reproduction, every act of multiplication, every act of creation is Visarga. And Visarga, Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaraha, this process of this creative force, which results in production, multiplication of living entities on this planet, that is karma, Krishna says. This process, the creative force, the karma, the baggage of karma that is carried affects the kind of body that the Atman gets. Therefore, karma here, Visarga, is production, the karma vasana, which becomes the prarabdha, determines the nature of the body. So the nature of the body that the Atman takes at the time of birth is determined by one's own karma vasana. So this karma, to know in its entirety, is the process that keeps constantly generating material bodies for the Atman. It is like the temporary house that is built, temporary houses that is built for the Atman to reside from time to time. Because our body is like a temporary shelter for the Atman. Every time the Atman takes birth, it gets a temporary shelter. And this temporary shelter is built, is the type of this house is determined by the Atman's own karma vasanas. Whether it is a palace, whether it is a hut, whether it is a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, depends on what one has. If I have more money, I build a bigger house. If I have less money, I build a smaller house. Depending on my interests, the kind of a house that I build changes. Similarly, depending on one's karma vasanas, the type of the body, the configuration of the body, the nature of the body also changes. So Krishna says, Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaraha Visargaha. Karma. Karma is this entire process of continuous creation, production of various kinds of material bodies. Every janma, the material body is different. The Atman is constantly, continuously taking different kinds of material bodies. And not only that, the material body that the Atman takes, even in this life, is also constantly changing. Therefore, karma is that process, with the creative process which keeps generating these material bodies, is karma. Bhuta bhavodbhavakaraha visargaha karma samhitaha. So these three things, three principles: Brahmam, Adhyatmam, and karma are the three principles that a Kaivalyarthi needs to know. A Kaivalyarthi needs to know what is his prapya, what is his goal. His goal is Muktatma Swarupa Anubhava. That is the goal. So therefore, the Kaivalyarthi should know what is Brahman. The Kaivalyarthi should also know what is the obstacle, Adhyatmam. The obstacle. Only when I know the obstacle, I can overcome the obstacle. So therefore, the Kaivalyarthi has to know Brahman, Adhyatmam, and the Kaivalyarthi also has to know the karma, Akhilam in its entirety, because he needs to get out of this karmic cycle as well. Then Krishna explains the next three terms. Adibhutam ksharo bhavaha purushachadi devatam. Adiyajnyohamevatra. He says, Dehe Deha Vritamvara. He takes up the next three terms. Adibhutam, Adidaivam, Adiyajnam. Adibhutam and Adidaivam are the two principles that are to be known by Aishwarya. Those who seek material wealth. Adibhutam. Bhuta. Bhuta here is the physical, the principles, the Panchabhutas and the products of Panchabhutas, which are the sense objects. Adibhutam, the superior sense objects, which become the goal for an Aishwaryarthi. An Aishwaryarthi is seeking material rewards. Therefore, Adibhutam refers to the goal of an Aishwaryarthi. I need more money. I need more property. I need more possessions. I need more power. I need more fame. I need more name. These are all material rewards. These are all these are referred to by Adibhutam. These are all sense objects. Therefore, Adibhutam Kshara Bhavaha, Krishna says. Kshara Bhavaha. These are those which constantly are subject to change. They are changing all the time. Adibhutam Ksharo Bhavaha Purushascha Adi Daivatam. Also, the Aishwaryarthi has to know the principle of Adi Daivatam. Daivatam, that state of all the Devatas. What is the difference between a Manushya and a Devata? Both are mortals. Even Devatas are not immortals. The only thing is they have a longer lifespan and the experience of pleasure lasts longer. If Manushyas can experience pleasure for a few seconds, the Devatas can experience pleasure possibly for few minutes, maybe few days. The duration of experiencing pleasures is longer for Devatas. Now, Adi Daivatam, that state of experiencing pleasure for longer duration of time. So, an Aishwaryarthi is seeking experience of pleasure for a longer duration of time. Seeking the pleasures of Swarga, for example. Having more comforts, more possessions, seeking more pleasures. So, that is referred to as Adidaivatam, that state. So, therefore, Adibhutam refers to all the sense objects. For an Aishwaryarthi, the goal is not only seeking all superior sense objects, the goal is also to experience the sense objects and experience and have that pleasure. So Adibhutam, Adidaivatam are the two principles that are to be known by an Aishwaryarthi. Adiyajnyohamevatra dehe deha bhritambara. Adiyajnyaha ahameva, Krishna says. So Krishna says, the sixth term, that sixth principle here, Arjuna, that you wanted to know. Aha adiyajnam ahameva atra dehe deha bhritambara. Arjuna is referring to Arjuna as deha bhritambara. Deha bhritam, an embodied being. Vara, a superior one. Hey Arjuna, you are the superior amongst many living entities. The deha bhritambara, dehe, in all the bodies, in all, there exists that Paramatman, the Antaryami, who is also referred to as Adiyajna. Adiyajna Whenever you perform any yajna, any worship that is done to any devata is ultimately worship done to Krishna and Krishna alone. Because he is the Antaryami who indwells in every devata. Therefore, he says, Adiyajna ahameva. Hey Arjuna, that Adiyajna ahameva. I am that Adiyajna. And to answer Arjuna's question, Kaha Adiyajna? Who is that Adiyajna? I am that Adiyajna. Hey Arjuna, recognize me. I am the one standing right in front of you. Who is that Adiyajna? And Katham, how he is Adiyajna? Because Krishna says, any worship that is done is ultimately worship done to me. And therefore, I am the bestower of all the rewards. Whatever rewards one seeks, whether it is material or spiritual, I am the bestower of rewards, and therefore know me as the bestower of all the rewards, both material and spiritual, and therefore aham, I am that Adiyajna. So thus Krishna answers, clarifies Arjuna's question, seeking the explanation for Tad Brahmam, Adhyatma, Karma, Adibhuta, Adidaiva, Adiyajna. Yaprayati samadbhavam yati natyatra samshayaha. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam nati atna. He says, Antakale cha mameva. Arjuna wanted to know, Prayana Kale, how should one at the time of exit for the Atman from the body, how should one know you? In what way one should realize you? Was the question. Now Krishna answers that question. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. Interestingly, Krishna uses both the terms, Prayana Kale, Antakale. Prayana Kale, at the time of death, the Atman is exiting the body, but Krishna refers to that as, earlier he referred to it as Prayana Kale, because it is journey. The Atman is on a journey towards its prapya, on a journey towards its goal. Now, the goal can be Aishwarya or Kevala Anubhava, or it can be Bhagavad Anubhava. If the goal is Aishwarya, the Prayana will continue. The Prayana will continue. But if the goal is Bhagavad Anubhava, the Prayana will not continue, it becomes Antakala. It will be the last moment. Also, Antakale can also be understood as the wait is over. The wait is over to attain the goal, which means even for Aishwarya, the wait is over. The next Janma that the Atman takes, the Atman will attain the goal that it seeks at the time of death. So Krishna, that is the reason why he says, in whatever manner the Atman contemplates, remembers, in whatever manner, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayaha. In whatever manner, if one remembers Krishna as the bestower of rewards, and Aishwaryathi remembers Krishna as the bestower of rewards, he's remembering Krishna, but he's remembering Krishna as a bestower of rewards. He's seeking material rewards. The next Janma, one attains the same state. One remains a Bhakta of Krishna, but attains a state where one can experience those material rewards. If one is remembering Krishna, and in order to attain Krishna, then one attains Krishna. So therefore, Antima Smriti determines the nature of the prayana, the journey that the Atman takes after the exit of that particular body in which it is indwelling. That journey, the direction of the journey, the nature of the journey, the destination of the journey is determined by Antima Smriti. At the time of the exit, the kind of remembrance, the kind of contemplation determines the direction of the journey, the nature of the journey, and also the goal, the destination of the journey as well. We can take, to understand this, taking an analogy, of a bird. If a bird which is perched on the branch of a tree, the bird is, when the branch of a tree breaks, the bird is ready to fly. The bird is not worried if the branch of a tree breaks, because why? The bird knows that when the branch breaks, it's not going to fall down because it can fly to the sky. It knows how to fly and it has wings. But if the same bird is still a baby bird and its wings are not yet fully developed, then if the branch breaks, the bird will also fall down. Every embodied Atman which is caught in the cycle of Ajnana is like that baby bird which doesn't have the wings to fly. It keeps taking different shelters, material shelters. Just like how the bird takes the shelter of the branch of a tree, the Atman takes the shelter of different kinds of material bodies, different material shelters. And many a times, the recognition that it has spiritual wings, it has wings to fly, is also not there. The awareness of the wings is not there. And the awareness that it can cultivate the wings is also not there. So Krishna says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayarpita manobuddhihi mame vaishyasi asamshayaha. One has to cultivate the growth of one's spiritual wings, the wings of bhakti. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha. Then there is no fear. As long as one takes material shelter, knowing that the shelter that one has taken is temporary. What happens? The Atman takes the shelter of a body and thinks that is permanent. It is so very glued to the body, the Atman thinks that is forever. It's going to be forever and it cannot detach itself from the body. The body begins to grow, then decay, and when old age comes, one becomes so very uncomfortable. One cannot detach from the body, thinking that this material body is going to stay forever. Just like how the branch of a tree will break one day or the other. It is meant to break. A material shelter is meant to break. And the Atman needs to be ready for the material shelter to break. And when it breaks, it should be ready with the fully cultivated wings of bhakti. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu pavanuspara yudhyacha. When the wings are fully developed, then the Atman is not worried at all. In fact, it is waiting for the moment for the material shelter to break so that it can fly towards the spiritual sky to go to attain Krishna. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu pavanuspara yudhyacha. Mayarpita manobuddhihi Mame vaishyasi asamshayaha. Therefore, Krishna says, hey Arjuna, right in this very life, surrender your mind, surrender yourself completely to Krishna and cultivate that longing to belong to him. Cultivate that wings of bhakti which will enable you to fly when the time is right, when the utility of the body completes. When one's life is completely fulfilled, when the mission of taking birth on this planet is over, one must be ready to fly towards Krishna with the spiritual wings of bhakti. Therefore, use the opportunity of this life to cultivate bhakti for Krishna. And when that happens, prayana kale, the antima smriti of remembering Krishna for the sake of attaining Krishna will automatically happen. Thus, Krishna addresses Arjuna's question and clarifies all the 6 principles, plus what one needs to know, what the bhakta needs to know in terms of realizing, remembering Krishna at the time of exit from the body. Thus, in the 8th chapter, Krishna takes the opportunity to also introduce the journey of the Atman after exiting from the body as well, which we will briefly look at in the next session. Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.